The return of the king, the prodigal son, my beloved Foggy Nelson is finally back in our lives. It may only be part of this week's incredible flashback episode, but I miss seeing Foggy Bear more than you'll ever know. I want to laugh and cry all at the same time. This episode meant the world to me. From an Avocados at Law reunion, to my favorite scene in this entire series, to Matt Murdock being confirmed as a foot freak, to opening with the Kingpin's toes. Wow, there was a lot of feet in this episode. And it's also the best one yet, so, I mean, that's a lot to process about the correlation and myself, but god, that episode was special. The way flashbacks are used to inform the narrative in the present day is masterfully done, especially with how they cross-cut between Dex and Matt's chilling debate in the church. Matt and Fisk both flashing back to important moments with the person they cherish most, who was killed by Bullseye, all while Matt is debating morality with Dex in real time, is the most peak thing ever. It's all made even better with some truly insane performances from the whole cast, but especially Wilson Bethel and Vincent D'Onofrio. They need to take a bow. Everything they do continues to blow me away. Dex, Fisk, and everything with Foggy brings a ton of important introspection back into the series that does a lot to flesh these characters out and put them on the right path as we head towards the end of the season. It's genuinely some of the best Marvel TV as they managed to recapture lightning in a bottle, and notice that Cherry wasn't even in it, so I couldn't be happier with how the episode turned out. And that says a lot because of all the aforementioned feet they threw in there. So please go ahead and watch it for yourself already, because I can't talk about this more without going into spoilers. There is so much to see that you cannot let me of all people ruin for you, okay? Alright, that's enough stalling. It's time for spoilers. Now that that's out of the way, I need to talk about those flashback scenes. First of all, Charlie effortlessly slips back into playing Season 1 Matt. It's genuinely really impressive. Something about the cadence in his voice, his attitude, it all feels right at home and makes up for how crazy that wig looks. As for Eldon, it's like he never left. He picks right up with that Foggy Nelson charm to the point where I had a smile on my face every time he was on screen. His chemistry with Charlie is as good as ever as he continues to breathe so much life into every scene. And good god, the visuals this episode are outstanding. They did such a good job replicating the aesthetic of the Netflix show overall. It felt like seeing an old friend again for the first time in years. Everything from the color grading, to the lighting, to the composition, to the wig. Oh, okay, you know what? No, maybe not the wigs, but everything else was on point. What matters is that they went out of their way to commit to that aesthetic to make the flashbacks feel like real actual flashbacks. It's so impressive that they showed actual footage from Season 1 during these sequences, and I couldn't tell it apart from the new scenes. It's that good. It's very funny to realize that they could have just been doing this the whole time, but I do really respect that they wanted to have their own unique visual style for Born Again. It takes a lot of guts to follow up on the most gorgeous looking superhero project of all time and do your own thing, but now that Season 2 has finally found its footing in the visuals, especially in the context of this episode, as it works a lot better with the distinct styles when cutting back and forth between the past and present. The way I've always looked at it is not that Born Again is a continuation of the Netflix show, because it is, but it's more so a comic run picking up where somebody else left off. The story beats may continue, but you are under an entirely new creative team. With that comes different writing and, most importantly, a completely new visual style. It's supposed to be its own thing, and it doesn't feel right to compare it to something that came before. Even if what came before looks so much better, this new follow-up is doing something new, and we have to accept that. The only thing I really do want back from the original show, though, is that full screen aspect ratio. Every single time they cut to a flashback, it just made me miss that more and more. I am sick of the widescreen aspect ratio they keep using on Disney+. I'm not in a movie theater, I'm watching this on my big TV screen. Let me fill up the TV screen, please and thank you. It is such a pet peeve of mine, and there is nothing stopping Marvel from doing that. That aspect ratio shift in the beginning of the episode as they transitioned into the Netflix cinematography had me ascending because of how it just pointed out how much better the show looks with a full screen aspect ratio. There has got to be a way we can just keep the radar sense changes while still getting a full window. But besides that one thing, I really liked how they shot the flashbacks this season. So now that I've got that off my chest, let's actually talk about that now. To absolutely nobody's surprise, if you've been following along with this channel for even one video, first is that I really love Kate Bishop, but more importantly, my favorite part of this episode was Daredevil and Bullseye's interactions intercut with Matt and Foggy's flashbacks, and the way they're in conversation with each other. We pick up right where Matt and Dex left off as they're in this back and forth debating if redemption is possible. It's a small moment, but I really love that Matt immediately chokes Dex the moment he says Foggy's name. It's a great way to, 1, show us that Matt is even more of a freak than we thought, and 2, set up the flashback flashback to show us how Matt has been looking at Foggy's legacy the wrong way. A huge part of Season 1 had Matt retire the cowl because he thought it's what Foggy would have wanted, and he wanted to honor his memory like that. But Season 2 is challenging that idea as Matt has this introspective moment where he has to realize what Foggy actually would have wanted, that being mercy. I can't tell you enough how much I love this episode is devoted to that debate inside Matt's head, as he wants to save Dex because he tried to kill him, thus attempting to balance his own scales in the same way Dex did with Vanessa. Matt's line saying maybe tonight's penance is mutual is a great way to symbolize this theme throughout the episode. And God, Matt actively trying to save Dex's life is such an inspired decision that shows just how far he's come, and also pays homage to this very famous moment from Frank Miller's run. Only, if I'm allowed to be a little sacrilegious here, I think this episode might have somehow pulled that off even better. The addition of Dex actively wanting to die goes a long way to add so much depth to this interaction. His idea of right and wrong is so twisted in his head, where he thinks that if Vanessa dies, he is absolved of all of his sins. It makes me wonder if he wants to die so he can presumably now go to heaven because he thinks he's done the right thing, and it ties back to his little religious kick he had in episode 2 as he's achieved this absolution in his own mind and wants to reach his final resting place before he messes everything up again. Dex's monologue in the church is genuinely so heartbreaking knowing his history and where he's come to get to this point. He's doing everything he can to say that he's never going to be able to get better without outright saying it. The line where he says, "Brother, we are who we are," cuts deeper than any shard of glass ever could. Born Again has done such a great job walking a very fine line with Bullseye's character where, on one end he's done these irredeemable things, but the other has them playing into that sympathy, and they go back and forth between the two of them so naturally. You can have Dex taunting Matt with this shit-eating grin in one scene before he delivers a powerful monologue about nature versus nurture within seconds of each other. While he may have embraced his role of Bullseye, you can tell deep down this was never who he wanted to be in life, and that still eats away at him in spite of the atrocities he's willing to commit. He's done so many bad things and is caught in this cycle of abuse and violence that deep down, he doesn't believe people can change. Which is what makes this episode so special, because it tees Matt up for the biggest win ever as he can finally rid himself of Bullseye, but he doesn't take that opportunity. He could have had everything he ever wanted if he just left Dex there to die, but despite the fact that he didn't want to admit it yet, he knows he can't let a man die. He sees that turmoil within Dex, and for someone who can sense heartbeats, he knows he's telling the truth. It's a beautiful blend of Catholic guilt and life experiences that come together to have Matt save Dex's soul. I can't work this anywhere else naturally into the video, so I just have to say really quickly, Matt teasing that he knows a nurse got me so hyped, dude. Oh my god, we are so close to seeing Claire Temple back, and I pray we get that reunion one day. But then to get back to the debate Matt is having in his head, that is where the Foggy flashbacks come in, and my god do they hit like the first drop of water after a long march through the desert. This flashback shows us Matt and Foggy taking on a case from their Landman and Zach days, that being Ray McCoy, the brother of Foggy's former best friend who relentlessly bullied him. The main debate between Matt and Foggy this episode is over their client's fate, as they want him to take a plea deal, but that guy thinks he's going to die if he goes to prison. It's really interesting to watch these two at this period in their life try and figure out what the right thing to do is. Do they easily end the case or try and find a way to get him out of it? That is already a really compelling debate just on the surface, but they then add another layer on top of it that gives us the conflict for the episode when Foggy discovers a loophole that would get the charges against Ray dropped. It's a really interesting way to escalate the stakes even more, as now he can either walk free or go die in prison, basically forcing Matt and Foggy to become judge, jury, and executioner on the spot as they've just started being lawyers. Also, I do think it's really cool how Foggy finding this loophole in the past mirrors Foggy finding the Red Hook charter in the future that basically led to his death. It's tragic, retroactive foreshadowing, a term I just made up, but it's a great way to show the importance of Foggy's character as he will always prioritize the people and doing what's right. If Matt is supposed to be a really good lawyer, then Foggy is a damn great lawyer. Seeing these two debate right and wrong took me back to the days where I was watching that Netflix show all over again. It was handled so well and felt very in character for the both of them, as Foggy is seeing the bright side of people and wants to help the guy who bullied him because he knows his troubled past. But to contrast that, Matt, due to his history of being on the receiving end of gang violence, wants to wash his hands of the guy because he did those crimes and deserves legal punishment because of it. I've already seen a lot of people try and say that this was out of character for Matt, but I need people to understand that's just who Matt Murdock is. He's not some virtue of good who always does the right thing. He is a hypocrite, constantly going back and forth on what side of the law he believes in. His morals moral code runs on bias and convenience. This is the same guy who is willing to let the Albanians and Bullseye have their way with Fisk in Season 3, and took a similar case in Season 1 talking about people facing a judgment of their own making, so it is very in line with early day Daredevil. The sooner people understand that Matt Murdock is not some perfect guy and is constantly changing his mind, the sooner you will be able to enjoy this character even more. He is a walking contradiction. It's why this debate between Matt and Foggy on whether mercy is a viable option hits so hard, as it does a great job reminding you of what made this friendship work in the first place. These are two characters defined by their history and have a completely different outlook on the world because of it, as they balance each other out. Matt is the realist of the two, who's able to cue Foggy in on these real world implications, while Foggy is able to show Matt the good in people. The fact that this guy even bullied Foggy does a lot to show how forgiving of a person he is. And I love the way it mirrors what's happening with Dex expertly as they debate if someone should live and die based on their flawed past, or if mercy can help inspire a more hopeful future and a better tomorrow. What has always made Daredevil such an interesting show is that Matt is constantly trying to be more like Foggy Nelson, but it's his addiction to the violence and self-righteousness that pulls him away from that point. And then it's in moments like this when Matt gets closer to being like Foggy where we get to see that rewarding payoff. Foggy has always been the heart of Daredevil, and this episode lets it beat once again. He's able to balance out Matt as this beacon of purity that washes away the devil within Murdock. It is all masterfully shown to us as they use these flashbacks not for cheap nostalgia, but to inform everything going on in Matt's head as he debates with himself what to do with Bullseye. The cherry on top of it all is when Foggy uses his own money to convince Ray to take this second chance seriously. It is such a beautiful moment that highlights what makes Foggy's character so special as someone who actually does the right thing. This one simple act of kindness makes a world of difference, and the craziest part is, they will never know it. They saved this man's life and protected him from his past, allowing him to live a better future, all because they took a chance, and they will never see that payoff. That mindset of paying it forward to make the world a better place is exactly what Matt needed to hear, and I love that the show has him flash back on that to inform his decision-making process. The way they cross-cut between Foggy in the past, giving Ray a chance at redemption as Matt is actively trying to figure out what to do with Dex, gave me full-body chills watching it. I love that Foggy is not haunting, but blessing the narrative with his presence. As much as I still fundamentally disagree with them killing off Foggy in general, years of therapy won't take away the pain that caused me. I really have to give the creative team props as they stick to that decision and justify it by continuing to make Foggy play an important role in the series from beyond the grave. The culmination of these two plotlines, when Dex is rage-baiting Matt to leave him to die as they get surrounded by the task force, when Matt actually leaves, was so good, because the moment of mercy when Matt returns to save him is my new favorite moment in all of Born Again. And the fact that this moment of forgiveness happens in the same church where Bullseye killed Father Lantom all those years ago brings the entire thing full circle. That cut of Matt and Foggy celebrating mercy to Daredevil hand outstretched to Bullseye is the epitome of why I love this character so much. The drama of morality, debating right and wrong, the lens they look through is so captivating, and Born Again has finally tapped into it. This entire episode was huge for Matt's arc this season. So far this season he's kind of been on the back burner, and it definitely worked to set up the other characters and position Matt as this figure who knows what he's doing is right, but as his world has started to fall more into shades of gray, this episode refined focus back on him to flesh out his struggle with redemption. It's something we've never seen Matt tasked with before, as his beliefs are put to the test and he has to actually live his morals by giving the man who ruined his life forgiveness, because he knows it's what the guy he killed would have wanted. God, that's so peak. But here's the thing. There is a whole other side of this episode yet to be discussed with the flashbacks as Fisk watches over Vanessa in the hospital. These ones are really interesting because they start out a little more vague than the Matt and Foggy ones, but end with a beautiful payoff. I really like how we get to see the choices that led to Fisk and Vanessa meeting, as it was both of them trying to maximize profit and take advantage of people, showing from the start that they're more alike than we think. Vanessa knows Rabbit in a Snowstorm will attract delusional people who will happily pay 3 times the price because they see themselves in it, and is happy to use that to her advantage. While Fisk could have been an insufferable crypto bro talking about Bitcoin, words I truly never expected to hear come from his big fat mouth, while a returning Wesley mentions an art gallery, and I was losing my mind watching that. Wesley is back, baby. I miss seeing him not looking like Swiss cheese. That is the gold medalist in dick riding, as he continues to be a pro at it for the Kingpin. This is when the gears started turning in my head as the flashbacks begin to cross over with each other, and it's even better when Wesley hires Buck. The way my jaw dropped when those two appeared on screen with each other. Is that even allowed? British Wesley meeting Wesley? Hell, maybe now it's American Buck meeting Buck. This is the single most important crossover to ever happen. I swear, it genuinely felt like a passing of the torch in a way. They did not have to include this whatsoever, but I love that they did because it ties the entire plot together. Those flashbacks with Buck in the past contrast really well with Buck and Daniel in the present day. Those two continue to have a really fun dynamic together, especially as they grow closer and closer together. But now we're starting to see the business side of that creep into the relationship more and more, as Buck is basically testing Daniel's commitment to the cause as he takes him to dispose of a body, but he doesn't tell him that. What transpires are some of the most tense scenes in this entire season as Michael Gandolfini gets to go crazy flexing his acting chops. That little moment when Daniel turns on the car, ready to run away from his problems, only to realize how that basically screws him over even more, is so good. Michael is able to tell an entire story with his face alone. All of their scenes are played so well together, to the point where I genuinely can't tell if Buck knew what he was doing or not. That's how good his performance is. The way I read it, it seemed like Buck was basically seeing if Daniel admits to anything to try and save his skin along the way, but Daniel is shockingly smart here and doesn't reveal the fact that he accidentally leaked the Vanessa story to BB. I really love this whole B-plot and how it develops because of how it fleshes out their dynamic more with this camaraderie that quickly shifts to cold, calculated rule following. It is a harrowing reminder of the horror that lies within Fisk's empire and what it's built on. The cross-cutting here between Buck threatening Daniel in the present as he tries to kill Foggy's client in the past is handled incredibly well, as that tension builds and builds to the point where Daniel is actively begging for his life, only for the big reveal that it's just the first mate of the Northern Star who Buck killed last episode. It seems like Daniel has graduated to one of the more trusted people in Fisk's empire as they've tested his loyalty and has proven he's doubling down on the cause, and it's gonna cause so many more problems for Daniel in the future. You gotta love seeing more of evil Matt and Foggy interacting with each other. That dynamic is gold, and surely nothing bad's ever gonna happen between them, right? Right? Then to circle back around to the whole Fisk and Vanessa thing in the present, as she unfortunately has survived the attack. There was a point in this episode where I was genuinely getting concerned they wouldn't commit to Vanessa dying and it would be some fate worse than death thing, as they drag it out just long enough to trick you. I have to give another round of applause real quick to Vincent D'Onofrio because his performance here steals the show. It's 2:30 in the morning though, so I can't actually clap, so I'm just gonna edit in a clapping track right now. Okay, thank you, that's much better. He plays Fisk so much more quiet and reserved, clearly panicking and scared while putting on a brave face. It is a completely different side of the Kingpin we have never seen before, and probably never will again considering the insane crash out on the way. Vincent is fully taking advantage of this opportunity to play a more vulnerable side of the Kingpin, doing his best work in the entirety of Born Again. I do really like the moment they were recontextualizing all of Fisk's flashbacks as he was just recounting the time they met to Vanessa as she's kind of getting out of this groggy state, and then just when you think everything's gonna be okay, she dies again, and we are thriving once more. That is beautiful karmic justice for Fisk as they torture him more and more, and they put him through the same kind of agony Ben Urich was with his own wife. It is oh so very satisfying to watch him go through all of this intense pain, but also equally upsetting in the fact that they made me feel bad for the Kingpin because of how good Vincent's performance was. Now that Vanessa's gone, Fisk has nothing to lose, and that means Fisk has nothing to lose. Oh god, man, he is going to be a problem for the rest of the season. We are about to see biblical levels of rage as this man probably has steam coming out of his big bald head, and I could not be more excited about it. This entire episode, I couldn't stop wondering why they dragged out Vanessa's death. What were we gaining from prolonging the inevitable? But I see why it needed to happen like this. First, giving Fisk a false hope only to rip it away from him twists the knife even more, which is only going to make his crash out worse, but even better than that is how Fisk wasn't able to save the woman he loves while Matt saved the man he hates. It is such a poetic way to show how these characters differ and why Matt's pathos will always win out in the end. Born Again has always done a great job showing how Matt and Fisk are two sides of the same coin, but this moment here fully solidifies that for me as we see their narratives parallel from each other in the most brutal and exciting way possible. Matt is reaching this beautifully cathartic destination in his journey, while Fisk is at his most vulnerable and destructive point yet, setting them on this collision course that is going to be beautiful to watch in the future. So why don't we go ahead and talk about that future now with my world-famous and award-winning prediction section. Once again, here's your double spoiler warning in case I get a little too accurate. I'm going to talk about some stuff in the trailer, so just go away if you don't want to hear anything. Or, you know, better yet, just mute the video so I still get the watch time. Fisk having nothing to lose is probably the most terrifying thing imaginable. I would rather fight god than an angry Kingpin. Considering the fact that he wanted Bullseye and Daredevil kept alive when Vanessa was still breathing, I cannot imagine the hell he's going to rain down upon them. And more than just that, he's going to take this out on the city as he goes full totalitarian, meaning that next episode we are finally going to see Jessica Jones again, and the world will rejoice when she is brought into this conflict. Hopefully we get a Luke Cage cameo too when her house is raided, but I'm not going to get my hopes up too high. And then from there, we can watch Matt finally assemble his army as everything escalates, fulfilling that promise from last season and giving us this brutal all-out war in the streets of New York City. What's really exciting about Bullseye and Daredevil being on the same team now is that it's only going to help further Fisk's agenda, as everything he previously said now comes true, only the context is completely different. So I'm very interested to see what precautions Matt takes to combat that narrative, and more importantly, how he has to deal with Karen Page now. I get that Matt forgave Bullseye, but the fact that he brought him to Frank's little bunker to Karen Page asking for her help is the craziest thing he's ever done. I take back what I said earlier. I would rather fight an angry Kingpin than have to deal with Karen Page when she's mad. That woman is going to say horrific things about Matt, and he deserves every single moment of it. Whatever she does next episode is fully justified. Karen doesn't have Foggy's teachings instilled in her in the same way Matt does. Her life is filled with so much more unresolved trauma, anxiety, and anger, where most of it stems from Bullseye. And considering that a few episodes ago, Karen was considering killing people like Bullseye, I cannot wait to see what Matt has to do to convince her this alliance will work. Right now, my big Hail Mary prediction is that Bullseye will be the ace in the hole and how they finally get Fisk put away for good. The trailers have teased we're going to be getting this big courtroom drama in the back half of the season, and I think Bullseye could be the witness that finally puts Fisk away. More than the first mate on the Northern Star or even Ray Nadeem, Bullseye was complicit in doing exactly what Fisk wanted, and if he testifies against him, that could be exactly what they need to finally end this saga once and for all, and maybe even let Dex get a little redemption as he accepts his own prison sentence. I don't want Dex to get a full redemption arc because I think he's at his best when he's the biggest menace possible, but I think it would work with the themes of forgiveness this season. Plus, I'm very sure this rivalry is very much so an enemy of my enemy is my friend type situation, so I don't see it lasting very long. There is definitely going to be a catalyst that gets them on opposing sides again, especially since we don't see Bullseye in that big team shot with everybody else. We do know that at some point Karen is going to get arrested by the anti-vigilante task force, so perhaps it's due to Bullseye's carelessness to show the drawbacks of him being on the team to counterbalance the potential positives. I make a lot of theories on this channel, but I honestly think that one has a really good shot of happening. Then on the smaller scope of things, this episode basically confirmed to me that Buck is going to eventually kill Daniel, right? He's gone way too ingrained with BB to the point where I don't think there's anything Daniel can do to win Fisk's trust back over, and it just makes sense that they've been building out Buck and Daniel's relationship, so when Buck actually has to kill him, it hurts a lot more. I'm not ready to lose Michael Gandolfini because he has such a fun presence on screen, but I think it's inevitable at this point and we just have to accept they're going to kill that man crazy style. And then, as always, my final prediction is that Foggy Nelson he's not going to come back. I think he's actually dead. I know I've spent the last month screaming every single week that Foggy is going to come back and they're going to adapt The Secret Life of Foggy Nelson, especially after Mike Coulter posted some insane set photos that make me fear for his life. But with this episode bringing Foggy back into the picture and not teasing any way for him to come back, I'm finally flinching and learning to let go. Even though I want it on the record that this would be a huge missed opportunity if they don't bring him back and adapt that story, this episode basically acted as a love letter to Matt and Foggy's friendship, and the creative team doubled down on their decision, showing that they're not going to undo the narrative weight that came with his murder. It's a heartbreaking realization for me as a Foggy is alive truther, but especially with Vanessa out of the picture for good now, Foggy coming back to be her downfall now doesn't make sense because they're both out of the picture. So I think it's important to say that I, legal name The Whole Shebang, on April 15th, 2026, officially declare that Foggy Nelson is not in witness protection and actually died in episode 1 of Daredevil Born Again. God, that hurts so much to say, but it feels like a weight off my shoulders as I can now enjoy this series for what it's actually trying to do. Well, that is until in season 3, when the Kingpin hires the Hand to resurrect Vanessa, and they also resurrect Foggy's rotting corpse, and that is how I finally get my beloved avocado. Wow, that guy was really delusional. Good thing I'm not him. Anyways, why don't you just let me know down below what you thought about Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 5. I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'm actually not going to threaten you this time because it's not what Foggy Nelson would want. So enjoy your mercy and please just subscribe.